We speak. Our words. We listen.
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 Hello, and thank you for joining us again here on Autistic Radio. Harry's Spectrum Voices Conversation is sponsored by coldpack.co.uk. Coldpack works with practitioners like chiropractors, osteopaths, physiotherapists, producing the cold pack that also advertises the practice with a logo and a website. Coldpack.co.uk is also where you go to get a cold pack if you're a home user. Everything you spend is directed directly to the work here at Autistic Radio in partnership with Autistic Association, the Autistic Autism Charity.
Hello all, this is Harry's Facebook for Sunday the 16th of November 2025. This is where we go through the Facebook posts shared on Autistic Radio's page and the topics that are on them. The first post is from Jill Hawley, Neurodiversity University, which is a page, health and wellness website. I'm an AUDHD UK counsellor and supervisor, sharing safe information about diverse body and minds, mostly ADHD and autism related. And she shared the following. Yesterday I spent the day with the creative counsellors at their annual conference. It was amazing. I loved every minute of it. Whilst this gorgeous group of people aren't an exclusive neurodivergent bunch, the place was spilling over with them. Everywhere I looked and listened, I saw and heard declarations of I'm ADHD, I'm autistic, and a few maybe I am too. Fallen Angels Dance Theatre were amazing. I was inspired and moved to tears with their performance. Katie at Healing Moon Psychotherapy and EFT was fantastic, and I learned a lot about what I need by building my miniature safe space in clay. Masha's Sand and Sound Centre was her usual wonderfulness. Brianna has to have a mention too for her comedic support. I laughed so hard. I learnt so much more about metaphors. I also met Nicola and discovered her resources, Nicola Hughes, Creative Counsellor. Go have a look if you wish. I met those I've known online for a while. Well, as some new fabulous human. Some are even listed on my counsellor recommendation post. I bought a gorgeous music creation, still unpaid for, it's coming. Received a gift bag, yet unopened, an ambassador of Creators Counsellors, and signed up to an awesome summer retreat. Honestly, I'm floating. Is it wrong to say I love them all? Thank you, Creative Counsellors, for the effort and joy you put into creating this haven for creative counsellors. Jill. And the pictures shared was various photos of people during the day and creations and slide from post-scription.
I think one of the themes of that quite long post is that amongst the counsellors, there were lots of autistic and ADHD people. There was a representation of the actual population amongst the people who were taking on this support role. Am I reading that right?
Yeah. What I liked about the post, it was like, even though it wasn't autism and ADHD specific, it was like a safe community where people did say, because they felt comfortable enough to say whether they're autistic or ADHD. So it was a nice, safe community and also a positive one. And what was good about it is talking about creative things rather than just simple information. It's people being creative and people basically having fun and having a good time. Certainly based on the post that's been shared, which is great.
Yeah, I'd like to pick up on the being out and open, because that's what they're doing, is they're being out and proud and open and owning their identity with, some kind of strength there. I've just had the experience alongside you at this professional conference, and the number of people there who were in professional positions in these different organisations who were also declaring themselves as ADHD or autistic, I felt was quite a heartening thing to see. I did also have this experience that's different to this post, where somebody sat close and next to me, and you were there for the majority of the time, I believe, and they spilt out their heart, and they described in different circumstances how they were not disclosing, and in other frameworks to do with their employment they were disclosing, and how it had been quite a difficult process. So the post space where people feel open and out, it's a powerful thing, isn't it?
Yeah, totally agree. And from a personal point of view, being in that environment where you're hearing, sharing their experiences and talking about autism specifically, of course, in relation to myself, it feels a kind of warm kind of atmosphere, a warm glow around the room, and learning from it. And I think there's nothing better, or one of the best things I enjoy is listening to people's journey. And there's nothing better when you hear one, even though there's a bump in the road in terms of their journeys, because that's what life is. It connects with you in a positive way. And you feel that sense of belonging as well. Because I've been to different events where I feel like the odd one out, or one odd crowd out, if you know what I mean. So it felt like so inclusive and felt comfortable, even though there was a lot of challenges within, like being away from home and being in a place full of people, which I'm not used to. But it made it feel a lot more comfortable being amongst those people. The next post is from Autism Together, which is a charity organisation. Autism Together is one of the leading providers of autism services and support in the UK. And they shared the following. They've shared a link, and it's about finding out about Gina's journey into the workplace through our Pathway to Work scheme. Gina, one of the people we support at Autism Together, is a recent addition to our Pathway to Work scheme, which helps create a route into the workplace for autistic adults interested in gaining employment. Gina is in placement at Wirrell's family-friendly attraction Eureka Science and Discovery. The experience Gina is enjoying at her work placement has seen her confidence and belief in her own abilities grow significantly, thanks to gaining genuine workplace experience at a location she finds interesting and stimulating. Shared some pictures, and there's a full story link on the post.
I think this is a high-quality post from a charity in autism. It's not white saviour. It has incredibly respectful language. It's speaking from the point of view of the client about what they are achieving and what they feel about it. It's a refreshing change from all the other stuff that we see that has a negativity about it. It's not saying they're fixing it. It's telling us about Gina's journey, and Gina's at the centre of it. I think that's really skillful marketing and skillful use, and it gives me confidence in that organisation just from that one thing. I'm not sure if I know these people. Maybe actually we were familiar with them at a conference, but they seem to be getting it right here.
It really did connect with me when I saw it and shared it because of the positive language. And looking at it again, the words of genuine workplace experience and the Pathway to Worker scheme, which helps create a route into the workplace for autistic adults who are interested in gaining employment. It's not just a tokenistic, this is something that must be done, but it's something for people who are interested in doing that will help you out. And it says that Gina joined the work placement and the confidence and belief in their own abilities have grown significantly because it's a genuine workplace experience rather than going somewhere and just ticking a box, which can happen to many people. And I like when it says the genuine workplace experience at a location she finds interesting and stimulating. And that's a big deal. You want to be stimulated. You want to have that good feeling to make all this worthwhile. And I just find it very powerful and strong and positive that this exists for people out there, and how we can genuinely kind of give confidence to people that are looking for such a program.
Now, Harry, you weren't in the 444 PM drop-in group earlier, but I was, and Robbie was speaking incredibly powerfully, and he spoke to this exact situation, but from an opposite experience, when everything was wrong about what the system tried to do. Teresa, you were there too. Do you know the thing I'm meaning?
I do, and I thought about it as soon as Harry started reading this. I immediately thought about that. I do think there's a lot to be learned here, and hope it can help people who've had these opposite experiences. I was actually wondering, is this group available to Robbie? I'm not sure where everybody is and what's available to them, but that was my thought. Is this something that he can access?
It's a project based in Wirral. I think that's is it Liverpool way, Merseyside way. And I think Robbie lives elsewhere. But Autism Together is an organisation I think is UK-wide. It all just depends on what services are available in particular areas and where they are, of course. And that's always a balancing act that some organisations do in terms of funding and what they can provide and where, even though they may be UK-wide or even England-wide.
We were talking last week informally about things like this, and Jules made a point of, if you don't have something in your area, you might be able to bring something into your area. Now, any individual is not responsible for doing that for themselves, but it's a good solution some of the time. And we have some people here, including Robbie, who have strong voices that don't work in the system, but might work in terms of advocacy.
The idea of overpromising to people who are autistic worries me entirely. There are lots of you out there. My thought is to try to create models locally wherever you are as small cells in the autistic revolution. I think what Teresa says is right as far as what we can offer is networking out with you and finding different ways. But let's be clear, there's a lot of you and there's not that many of us.
The next post is from AUDHD Unfiltered, which is a health and wellness website. Canadian Autistic ADHD and Unfiltered, welcome into my brain and daily life. And they shared the following. I'm not difficult. I'm detailed. You call it nitpicking. I call it precision. My brain picks up on inconsistencies because it's wired to analyse patterns. That's not control. It's how I process information. When I correct something small, it's because small errors pile up and become chaos. Attention to detail is not criticism. Care. You get to overlook. I get to overanalyse. Neither is wrong, but one of them keeps things from falling apart.
When I was listening to this person, I remembered something. In movies, I can be most annoying because I feel like I should be their post editor. You know, when they go by something in a historic documentary and then I see a brand new window or something. It's nice to see this lovely and brief, almost minimalist post that does resonate with me.
I think these sort of posts are quite helpful, especially if you're doing it for yourself, because some autistic people are criticised for how they are, how the effort that goes into what people think is overdoing something, like over analysing, overthinking, and dare I say, over effort. And people just don't understand why that happens, and why don't you keep things simple? It's that lack of understanding of how some of our brains function, and how that sort of kind of activity, that kind of task does help. It's not there to be a nuisance, not there to be a pest, and it's not there to say that other ways are wrong. It's just what's more suitable for yourself, and to ask for respect for different methods in doing things that people may think seem odd, strange.
I think that there's something in this post that's very close to me. And as a 60-year-old man, something that I've kind of been working on for the whole of my life. And it's still something that is difficult for people to look past. It's still difficult for me to mask up or change in some. And my brain picks up on inconsistencies because it's wired to analyze patterns. And as soon as I'm processing this, it becomes vocal in some. And the way it becomes vocal is in a way that is not intended to be socially acceptable. It's kind of like thinking out loud, perhaps, more than framing a conversation to take into account the other person you're trying to communicate with. And it really gets to people. It really does. And if I experience it from the other side of things, it really gets to me too. So it's fully understandable. It also says that's not control. And I agree with that sentiment. That is the impression this kind of behaviour gives people. And I'm a 60-year-old man, and I have been working with this since I was an adolescent, and too cocky and too clever by half and all that kind of arrogant way. And I've managed to soften it to some degree, but even in my own home, I'm hurting people's feelings accidentally.
The next post is from Own Time and Space, which is a page for children and parenting, supporting and empowering neurodiverse families through lived experience and professional expertise of psychology, education, SEN, Autism PG Cert, community groups, one-to-one family support, workshop and training on neurodivergence, advocacy for SEN, based in the UK. What they've shared is the following. There are still too many professionals seeing PDA as extreme behaviour and not a distressed child with high levels of anxiety. You're trying to control the child. Start trying to connect with the child, to what the child is communicating, and to build relationship. Remembering connection before correction.
Two things. One, I chuckled a bit because of the prior post and how people might see us doing that, but totally differently. And when you're talking about children, it hits me where it hurts.
The post does hit a bit, just looking at first line. There are still too many professionals that are seeing PDA as extreme behaviour and not a child who is distressed. It's just seen as extreme behaviour that must be tackled head on and cured and sorted, rather than try to understand the distress, the tension, the anxiety. And that can be very damaging, particularly for children. And it's just trying to get that understanding across. You know, mistakes are made and we understand that, but it can create trauma, and that affects people for life in most cases, especially if it's in childhood. It's not something you forget. So it's very important that these messages are repeated time and time again.
How you were there with me when we listened to Dr. Giorgio Papadopoulos. That's definitely not how you say her name. And for many years, she was professional working, and she has come to realization how practice needs to change around PDA, how the behavior of the professional needs to change. And the whole of that conference was there, wrapped in attention at listening and trying to change the culture around. So we've got this post really clearly describing the problem. And we've got this tiny glimmer of hope with this restraint reduction network group that the professionals out there do understand, they do get it, and they are trying to reach other professionals, but it's like walking upstream in a fast-flowing salmon river.
The next post is from Nikki Butler, the autistic Joyologist, who's an entrepreneur, AUDHD best-selling author, success and balance, business strategist, mentor, speaker, autism and ADHD advocate, supporting neurodivergent people to stop living in hard mode and create a fulfilling life on their terms. ADHD versus autism versus AUDHD. Success is a fingerprint, not a blueprint. If you're a late diagnosed neurodivergent entrepreneur and you're burnt out, it's probably because you're still trying to use the neurotypical definition of success. That hustle culture lie. It was never meant for your AUDHD brain. It just leads to chronic burnout. The corporate ladder, the 7-figure blueprint, the rigid 9 to 5, they were all designed for an operating system we don't run. Chase them, we catch them, and we still feel empty and exhausted. That's because success for us must be based on capacity, not conformity. Your genius is in your difference. Stop masking it. Start designing a life and business strategy that works with your brain and not against it. True success requires radical authenticity.
I think this is my first exposure to this, and there's a lot here to think about. There's a lot to get your head around.
Yeah, it's a fair point, Jules. It is something, even when I was sharing it and even talking about it now, it's like, it's more like that sort of attraction of interest. And I was just wondering, while sharing it, if anyone has any experience of it, or if they feel that the language is positive or negative, or any thoughts at all. I mean, looking at the presentation itself, the ADHD versus autism versus AUDHD, and they were talking about you were sold a hard mode definition and the measures of success, and the stuff is basically said in it supporting information I've just read out. It's saying that things are done in such a way that it goes against the grain of autistic people and people with ADHD, and there is another way. And by doing another way doesn't mean that you're unable to do something, it's just you're doing something different. I just like the approach and the positive language that comes out.
I suppose there's something about this that I find difficult. The last sentence. Stop masking it. Start designing a life business strategy that works with your brain, not against. True success requires radical authenticity. And, yeah, okay. Revolutionary talk. Dangerous talk, in fact. In my experience in business, it's necessary to mask whether you are neurotypical or any kind of neurodivergent, because the capitalist system is the capitalist system as it's set up. If you are in conventional business, the concept of being out loud and proud, whatever minority you are, is likely to cause you issues and retard progress in those structures. I do, however, understand the idea behind it and the call to action to actually be authentic. And I myself was lucky enough to be entrepreneurial enough to be in self-employment, which meant that I could control all these things and I could be more authentic, but I still masked in certain circumstances in business for all kinds of reasons. It's a big ask this person is making, but I do understand the sentiment behind it.
Yeah, I've been both an entrepreneur, which seems to be who she's speaking to, and I've also been in the corporate world, which did burn me out eventually. I mean, I'm an achiever, and it was a time in history when they needed people who understood, the internet, but I don't know. They have so many kinds of corporate training that were so painful to go through for me. And also, even if you're an entrepreneur, you're still working with other people. And You can find yourself one day with a new set of clients or a new business partner or a new government in your country that does not want you being radical anymore. I'm happy that I have a place now where I can be myself just because of the type of business I've now chosen. But I think in strict business, it might need to be sort of less radical, do a bit or as much as you think is appropriate, because your next client, your next boss, your next government could come along and that's it.
I want to bring us up to date with the text here. Robbie says, the neurotypical measure of success is capitalist measure of success, which is money.
To be honest, from a personal perspective, I hate that measurement. To be successful, it means that you've made money. And I don't mean like creating a living and doing well for yourself that way because you need money to live. But just like that's the kind of measurement point. If you don't make money or if you don't make as much money as someone else, that means you've failed. And that does bother me because there's more to life than money. But because of the capitalist society and the way it's set up, money matters so much. It's hard to avoid that sort of measurement, even when you're trying to be more balanced.
What's interesting to me is that there are various autistic people I know who had careers and had entrepreneurial ideas, but when they got to a standard of living that they felt fitted them, they stopped trying to get more. They didn't, and the same for myself, did other things instead, That seems to be an autistic trait to do with it.
One of the things I feel about self-employment and other forms of relationship is I just don't like it when things go wrong. Now, most people will say to you, do your best, You can't stop things maybe happening. They may go wrong. But with business and things with value and relationships, when they go wrong, it's quite meaningful. And so the stress can get kind of off the scale. And so someone recently was asking me if I could engage in sending them something over to North America. And it just brought back to me all the stresses I used to have in my self-employed business, which was like, is this going to make it? How do I cover my back if it doesn't? The disappointment, the quality control, all these things.
Robbie says something very important in the text, and I totally agree with it. It is not worth sacrificing health for money. And that sounds simple, and it sounds something that you should abide by, but it's difficult to do so because of how things can go. But it's certainly something that you need to remind yourself time and time again, because they say without money, you've got nothing, but without health, you have nothing. And health is more important than money, or it certainly should be. Thanks everyone for taking part in our good conversation as always. And thanks to everyone that shared these posts that we've talked about tonight. So this is Harry's Facebook for Sunday the 16th of November 2025. Here every Sunday, 5:55 PM UK time. And I look forward to next week. I'll hand over to Jules.
Spectrum Voices Conversation is an Autistic Association production for AutisticRadio.com. If you have something to share with us, if you need a voice, you can make different kinds of programs with us. You can make a 10-minute short, or you can join us for a podcast to talk about a subject that is dear to your heart or something you think needs a wider audience. We have an open door policy for divergent views. We do not necessarily agree with everything that we share on our Facebook pages or the words expressed in our podcast. There are a lot of different divergent views which we are trying to allow get aired so that people can see things from different people's vantage points. We hope that you will join that conversation. Contact us through any of our links, Facebook, by email, directly to us.